we have some breaking news, and I'll put that. But before we get started with the breaking news, I just want to say my name is Ty Jensen. I am the host and owner of RunRealPolitics.com. I also am an interviewer for that, and I'm also running for Utah's National RNC Committeeman for 2024. So, with that being said, I know the big news is going to be hitting any time now between candidates for tomorrow's convention up at the Salt Palace in Salt Lake City. But I'll just break it right here, right now for you. And this is going to be a hot take. This is something that I did. So an hour and a half ago, around 5:30 p.m., I contacted Rob Axton, and I have withdrew from the Utah Congressional District race for CD2 in order to run fully for the RNC National Committeeman for the state of Utah. That is something between me and Colby, and I'm putting my full faith and backing into Colby Jenkins for this position that he is going for over Celeste Malloy. Now, when it comes to Celeste Malloy, I want somebody that's going to be in DC that's going to represent everybody fully without a shadow of a doubt. And that is not somebody that's with the establishment. Me and Celeste are going to butt heads a lot. And she, to me, is part of that GOPE, as we call it, or Grand Old Party establishment. And this is something we don't need. We need somebody that's going to be America first. We need somebody that's going to put the people and the party over self-interest, somebody that's going to put us in our state above special interest groups, from lobbyists, from bureaucrats, and get that deep state out of the way. And right now, I know I would be a great congressman. I'm not gonna lie. I would be a fantastic congressman. I have no issue with saying that whatsoever. My biggest problem was getting out and about to all 13 counties. My other problem was financial backing. And when you go into a race and you sit here and you say, well, I don't want to sit here and raise funds, well, that was stupid on my part because I thought I wanted to earn it, which I still do. I want to earn it before it's even given to me, before the nomination process ever begins. Well, Colby raised those funds, and I'm very proud of him for doing that because going up against Celeste, it's going to be a 10-1 as far as money draw because she does have that self-imposed special interest lobbying firms, and especially with her former boss, former Congressman Chris Stewart, that's going to be a problem for anybody. So I was very humbled and honored to withdraw my name from tomorrow's voting block of the congressional debate and from the congressional race to allow Colby to get that 60%. Now, what I want everybody to do is go vote for Colby. If you're a state delegate like I am myself, and I will be voting for Colby Jenkins for Utah's 2nd Congressional District, I want everybody to go ahead and do that because he is a man of the people, by the people, and for the people, and not with the GOPE or the establishment. That's somebody we do not need. So, humbly, I am withdrawing from the CD2 race to back Colby once and for all, and there's going to be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is something that had to be done, that I have already done. I've already talked to Rob Axton. I've already talked to Stafford Palmarty, or I can't say her name right, but I've already talked to Stafford and Rob, and they're okay with this. We all had a meeting about this today. I talked to Colby many times. Not about that, but I've talked to Colby many times. I have grown to be very fond of Colby. He's a very good man. Him and his wife, fantastic people. I got nothing bad to say. Listen, I am one of two ways, and there's very little gray area for me. If I like you, I love you. If I don't like you, I can't stand you. I won't think that you exist. And so there's that little gray area wiggle room. But Colby never entered that. He was always, from the first time I met him, down in St. George or Washington, Utah, when we did that candidate forum at the Washington Library. I got to know Colby after that, and I'm going to tell you this: he is one hell of an amazing man, and somebody that I would look great to as a congressional member running and being nominated, plus being elected in June or tomorrow at the convention and push through November's election. But I support Colby. I am behind him 1 billion%, or whatever the national debt is times that by Colby. I am behind him that much to beat out Celeste Malloy and run away with this so that he is elected, sworn in January, and is our congressman going forward. Now, with that being said, I am still running for RNC National Committeeman. Now, what that entails is you have to work with the SEC, you have to work with the state party, and you have to work with the state delegates. Not only that, you are helpful when it comes to getting our federal elected officials all on the same page and to help our in-state legislator be all on the same page. Now, that's very hard to do. We got a really tight governor's race between Cox, Lyman, and I believe Carson Jorgensen. I believe Carson and Phil Lyman will push that June primary ballot. If Sylvia's has a chance, I would love to see her there as well. I haven't really got to talk to her that much, but she would be very fantastic. When it comes to the U.S. Senate race, we have to watch that as well. When it comes to Carolyn Fippen, I think she has a great chance to at least go to the June primary. Trent Staggs is going to be there. Obviously, Brad Wilson, Jason Walton, and I believe there is one more that is already going to be there because of the signature gathering of John Curtis. So when it comes to the signature gathering, I believe that is one thing and one thing only, and that is how do I put this very nicely? I'm not going to put this nicely. It's a damn slap in our face. When you go out and you pay people like Brad Wilson there, he spent over $100,000. $100,000. Let's put that into perspective. That's an astronomical amount just to make sure that you are vindicated to be on the June primary ballot. That to me and you as well, that is a slap in our face. You have no respect for us, and it makes the caucus convention system obsolete. It makes it worthless. And I really don't like that because it's our neighbors that we have to answer to as state delegates. They're the ones who elect us to go to Salt Lake or Utah Valley or St. George or wherever the conventions are held and to be nominated to go there to select members from the House, the Senate, the gubernatorial, to the state auditor, to the state treasurer. They are looking to us to help fill that void for them and their voice. So when you go out and you gather 28,000 or 7,000 signatures or however many, now state legislative races, I don't really care. Go out and gather signatures. I don't really care. They're only 1,000 or 2,000. If you're a county commissioner, maybe it's 300. But when it comes to the federal delegation, 7,000 and 28,000, that is a slap in the face to us delegates because that just shows, again, that you don't give a damn about us. You don't care about our neighbors. You do not care about our precincts that send us state delegates to these massive statewide conventions for voting process and nominations. So that's where I stand with that, and nobody can convince me otherwise. I really think that that is a slap in our face as a state delegate. All right, so where do we begin? Now that we got the breaking news out of the way that I withdrew from the congressional race and backing Colby Jenkins fully, and I've already thought about him. Let's just get into that, shall we? So let's start off right now. I mean, what better way to do it right here live on YouTube and Twitter X. So I'm Ty Jensen. I live in central Utah. I was raised here. I grew up, there's raised in that you grew up. I was raised here in central Utah, but I grew up when I left for college, and that was back in 2003. I spent over a decade, about 13 years away from central Utah. I lived along the Wasatch Front. I lived in Orem, Utah for 7 years. Then I lived in Salt Lake County for another 5 after that. And in between that, I lived in Cedar City when I went to SUU down in Iron County in Cedar City for a year and a half. I never wanted to be a politician before that. Let me clear my throat really quick. I'm sorry. So, I never wanted to be a politician. Ever, ever, ever. When I first went to college, I was into sports medicine. That was my background. Sports medicine and genetics and genetics in general. I had no indication of ever being in politics until I got to SUU when I was about 30 years old. I never thought about it. My life goal was back then was to sit here and be on an NCAA basketball sideline because that's where I have experience. I was on the Utah Valley men's basketball program on the coach's side as a student assistant for 3 years under Coach Hunsaker. And then I went to SUU with Nick Robinson for a year down at SUU, obviously. And it was at SUU where I got my political start. So, while I was at SUU, I got to join the Romney campaign. I hate to say that out loud, and it still has a very bitter taste in my mouth, not from the soda, but from the Romney campaign. That was 2012. None of us knew any better. We all thought he was a great guy, great candidate, and obviously when he became a senator for the state of Utah, we dramatically seen the opposite effect of that. So we all got kicked in the ass with that one, didn't we? But again, I never wanted to be in politics. I wanted to be on NCAA sideline, as a coach. Didn't care if I was a second or third assistant, player development, basketball operations. Didn't matter. I would rather be Division One or Division Two back then. But it wasn't until the government started to come after me personally that I wanted to fight back. And the only way to fight back is to put your foot into races, to put your name, your image, your likeness into the game. Not just talk about it, but be part of it. And here we are today. Here I am, over a decade later, running for things, running to make a difference, running to be the voice of you who seem to have no voice, that you are overshadowed every single day. And me, I'm just loud. I can be as loud as AOC, but from a conservative standpoint. But you need somebody that's going to be in your tent, who's going to stand up for you, who's going to go to bat for you, and not just go to bat, but have a voice. Right now, conservatives do not have a voice on the national level. We are overshadowed by big tech. We are overshadowed by legacy media. We are overshadowed by every entity known to man. If you do not believe a certain way and go along to get along, then you're ostracized. Well, too damn bad. Because we're here. We're human. The GOP is a national party. The RNC is a national party. And we are very blessed to be a part of that. And a lot of people may disagree, but it is what it is. And here we are. I'm proud to be a Republican. I'll say it proudly. Why not? But when I say that, I get a lot of flack. Oh, you're just one of those, bigot, white supremacists, you're homophobic and all that. I hear it all day long, and especially with this new career with Raw Real Politics, I hear it all the time. And guess what? That is the most furthest thing from the truth, any of it. We are not all those things. We are just upstanding citizens who just want to do what's right for the greater good. We're not sitting here trying to keep people down or kick people when they're down. No, we want to lift up people. We want to have them have their voice at the table and take on table kitchen discussions every single day. And that's where I am. This is what I bring. So with that, I am very proud to be in this race for the National RNC Committeeman. This is one heck of a job, and I know that being from rural Utah, living along the Wasatch Front, and living in southern Utah, I can bring a unique energy that hasn't ever been felt for an RNC committeeman. They've always been along the Wasatch Front. Having somebody that's lived in all three, rural, suburban, and urban settings, I can be that voice for the state of Utah with the RNC, with our GOP in the state that we desperately need, and this is the chance that we get to do that. So, one of my first goals, and you'll see it right here on the screen, one of my first goals, very simple. Work closely with our elected officials, especially the nominees at tomorrow's state convention. We have to work with our elected officials, whether it's the state legislature or whether it's our federal delegation and our state party. But the one party that's always missing, and which I'm going to really listen to and hone in on, is our SCC, our State Central Committee. It seems like they put forth resolutions all the time. They always get shot down by the state party and not really heard by the state delegates. Well, with me at the helm, that's going to end. That's just it's over. We're done with that. We're not going to play that game. So if the SEC members want to come to me, and I will go back to the state delegates and say, this is what they want, this is the execution they want to run, this is the plausibility, and this is how we're going to execute that so it gets passed. That's the difference. We have to have a plan. And somebody that's like me that's willing to work closely with all of our elected officials, from our Attorney General to our state governor, to our federal delegation, to our state senators, as well as our state house members. We have to be willing to work with everybody across the board. And that's something that I want to do. See, when you start to do this for a living, you start to do this a little cotton mouth, dry mouth. But yes, we have to have somebody that's going to, and as a state delegate, the incumbent, Brad Bonham, or however you pronounce his name, I have not heard one damn cent, not one peep from him. Not one time in the last 6 months. I think he took this as an opportunity to get elected last summer when Bruce Howe, or Hugh, or however you say his name, stepped down to run for Congress for Congressional District 2, which Celeste obviously occupied. I don't think he really had goals in mind. And I still don't think he has those goals, to be honest. But I really don't know. I guess I'll talk to him tomorrow. But we need somebody that's going to have a plan, execute a plan, and make sure they come to fruition. Horrible, I tell you. This cough is driving me nuts. So the second goal, vote to keep supporting our nominees. Obviously, the ones who win tomorrow will absolutely have my support because they are the nominees. If they are the signature gathering, yes, I'll have them on Run Real Politics as well. Everybody has a fair shot at the table. But the thing is, I want to push the nominees who did not gather signatures, who went through the process and got duly elected by you, the state delegates. And that's who I'm going to talk to first. And then the second part of this is vote to back President Donald Trump. Absolutely. We have to vote the nominee. He is going to be the nominee. It doesn't matter. The courts can tie him up all they want. But with working with the federal RNC on the national level, with Michael Whatley and Laura Trump, I will absolutely make sure that President Trump regains his seat in Washington, D.C. Now, as I say that, we need to push back against Joe Biden and the Biden Corrupt Crime organization here. His administration has put us into the negative zone. And what I mean in negative zone is he has created a lot of net negatives. Social programs, expenditures, foreign aid, foreign packages. Well, I will work closely with our federal delegation to make sure that Joe Biden is stumped the rest of the way all year until he is ousted from office. Oh, sorry, lost you there for a split second. Thinking about these live streams happens once in a while. But yes, I will work with President Trump. I will work with our federal delegation. Let's make that happen. And tomorrow we can take this and bring Ty Jensen as the nominee for the RNC National Committeeman. So let's move on to the third goal of mine. And that third goal is very simple. State voting laws and updated voter rolls. Oh my gosh, this has been such a thing. So I've reported on this. Tim Pool has reported on this. It's been all over the national media, all over every podcasting syndication across that is coming from the Social Security Administration. So it wasn't something that was just hocus pocus out there into the ether. This is a legit thing, and we have to make sure our voter rolls are updated. Our deceased names need to be taken off those immediately. We need to work with all 29 counties to make sure that our voter rolls are updated this year. You got to realize we have May, June, July, August, September, October to make sure that that's 6 months. And we can do that. But when you need a committeeman that's going to make sure that's going to happen. Now, Salt Lake may give me some pushback, and Summit County may give me some pushback as well. But guess what? We're going to make sure that we're going to update those voter rolls, and we're going to do it this year because the 2024 election matters significantly more than almost any other election in our nation's history because of everything that the media and the Democrats are trying to do to President Donald Trump. They're coming after him. They will come after us, and they will use illegals to make sure they vote Democrat and keep voting Democrat forever. We need to make sure that our voting laws are up to date, secure, and our voter rolls are updated and cleaned. And it's pretty that simple. The problem is you need somebody that's willing to make those phone calls, willing to write those letters, willing to stand on the state legislature, House, and Senate floors and make those statements as your RNC committeeman. Not only that, I will help our federal delegation. In fact, if permitted by Coleman Jenkins, if you elect him tomorrow, if he'll allow me, I'll go speak on his behalf in Washington, D.C. for this. We need a national voter roll cleanup, and the only way to do it is by making this very transparent, and updated voter rolls are a key necessity for fair elections from now and going forward. So let's move on to the fourth goal here. And that fourth goal is going to be very simple. Help the state delegates and the SEC keep the state party in check with its laws and bylaws. Now, not just the laws and bylaws, but also the wants and the wills and the needs. Everything from our ADAs, from at the state conventions, to making sure that we have the correct credentials for every single state delegate. And that must be a must in this convention. Now, this convention, they are using not clickers, not paper ballots, which I would rather have, by the way. I would rather have paper ballots through and through. There's only one secure way to do that, and that's paper ballots, to make sure that every vote counts, that every vote is accounted for, and that there is a tracking system with those ballots. It's very simple. Therefore, you deter any type of fraud. They can be watermarked, they can be numbered, they can be color-coded. Doesn't matter. You can have pink for U.S. Senate. You can have light blue for House districts. You can have orange or yellow for state auditor or any others, or for the governors. But you can do these things with every single race, and every person gets to vote as a state delegate. Instead, we're going to electronic systems and e-voting. That's something I'm not okay with, because the QR codes can be hacked, they can be filtered, they can be manipulated. That's something that I'm not okay with. And so I haven't talked to Rob about that specifics, but it is a very deep concern of mine. So if state delegates and SEC members want to say, hey, point of personal privilege as a state delegate or SEC member to the party chair, well, you have your little microphone in front of you. If they say, hey, point of personal privilege here, I vow and vote and would love to exercise the right to ask for a room vote, for a whole room vote of all 29 counties for paper ballots, and just see what they say. Now, this is probably going to be controversial, but it's something that we have to get across, and it's something we have to get across right here, right now, because I want a fair election tomorrow at the nomination party. That's all I'm asking. Fair nomination, because I'm really afraid of is that something's going to happen, that the QR codes, the e-voting, isn't going to turn out right, and for the almost 4,000 delegates, maybe 500 are misguided. That's not accurate. if we have paper ballots and even clickers, they were rented in the last 2022 election, which that was just fine. And those clickers were a rental, and you had to drop them off, and it got tied to your voter ID, it got tied to your name, and that was fine. And I had Carson Jorgensen explain that to me the other day. The problem with e-voting is you pull up your phone, and it's going to give you an app, and it's going to make you sit here and go through the hoops. And the older generation, I'm going to tell you this right now, the older generation is not okay with that. And our party is an older party. I hate to say that. They're going to be anywhere from 35 to almost 90. Which brings me into another segment down the line here. But we need to make sure that paper ballots are at least the backup for tomorrow. And I hope that somebody points out and says, hey, point of personal privilege, I would love to know as a chairman if you have paper ballots stored away in the back for safekeeping and for voter voting. That will throw them off. It probably will, but it's worth a look at. So that's my fourth goal. My fifth goal is we need a get out the vote. And we're missing that, especially from our youth movement. And that's something where I'm 42. I don't look 42, but we need a youth movement in this state, especially for the RNC and the GOP here in the state. We have to have that get out the vote and the youth movement, especially with our 18 to 35-year-olds. They're missing right now. And we need to attract them in, saying, that movement is just null and void right now. But guess who is taking and pouncing on that opportunity? The Democrats. We're letting them kick our ass all the way down. And it's not fun. Now, well, in the state of Utah here, it's red, and I would love to make it so red that it's maroon. But the thing is, the ground game for the Democrats is far better. With me, that stops. The youth movement, that's non-existent, that stops with me as well. And to get out the vote. Everybody thinks that they can just skip over a vote because of maybe this person or that person may or may not be on the ballot. But here's the thing: this is a presidential year. We have to have those numbers. There are over 900,000 registered Republicans, and we do not want a low turnout, especially for the primaries and the general election. This is why the get out the vote movement, especially for both elections, is vitally important. I want to help ensure that we have maximum numbers going forward with our June primary and our general election in November. Okay, so get out the vote and the youth movement. The GOP can be solid for at least another decade. So, goal number 6. Push for paper ballots. I've already said this at the state conventions and not e-voting. Now, we're going to be doing e-voting with these things, with our cell phones. I hate it. But it is what it is. But when we sit here and we go into going into the chairman's race next year, paper ballots. The midterms the year after that, paper ballots. The 2028 general election, paper ballots. Secure, safe, coded, numbered paper ballots or clickers. And you should be able to opt in for the clickers. If you want to use a clicker, you should be able to opt in for the clickers. If you want a paper ballot, you should be automatically given a paper ballot. And clickers should be a opt-in choice, as far as I'm concerned. But that's between me. I know a few people along the state party does not want to deal with the clickers. They only want to do e-voting because they think it's going to be faster. But it comes down to security with me. And that's something that I want to make sure is secure, is the safety and security of our elections, especially from a state process. Which brings me on to number 7. Actually, number 7 is not even on here, so I'll read it. Support the RNC chair, Michael Whatley, and Laura Trump. Absolutely, 100%. We are going to support them. And we're going to take back the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And we need this trifecta this year so that we can get our lives back on track. And that's the one thing that I want to do absolutely. We have to have a trifecta this year. Now, we've already had one when, Paul Ryan was sadly the House leader. Look how that turned out. It did not. But we have a little bit different of approach this year. If we can get President Trump back in there, maintain and add to the House, and reclaim the Senate from a federal standpoint, our nation will become a whole heck of a lot better from day one. And that's what we have to have right now. So let's make sure that that happens. So I've got this along the campaign trail quite a lot. And I'm going to share my experience here with you right now. And this is when I've asked Carson Jorgensen. It was asked to me by a delegate down in southern Utah. And goes, do you have a standalone moment or movement to where you stood on your principles and not caved to the pressure in both private and public life? Well, for one, mine was a dual, and it was all at the same time. And mine was COVID. Oh, if my friend Landon sees this, you're not going to like what I say right here, but it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God, and I'm willing to stand and die on that rock. So, 2020, when COVID was just hitting, I was working at a retail shop in central Utah. It was a hardware store. And the owner is up there in age, where he was more susceptible than somebody my age. These people have a disdain for the Wasatch Front. They still do. They do not like the Wasatch Front. Me, that's where I grew up, and that's where I love, and I love it there. I'm not going to disrespect, Southern Utah. I love you guys, and I live here in Central Utah, in rural Utah. So, but they have a disdain for the Wasatch Front. They think that they don't matter, even though they do, because everything, your house, your living room, everything comes from a city. It doesn't matter what it is, but they don't like that. Anyway, so it was April 2020. I was in the middle of the CD2 race back then versus Chris Stewart, Carson Jorgensen, and Mary Burkett out of southern Utah. And what was happening was, as COVID was spiking in the bigger counties because of the bigger population, the boss said, illegally, you as an individual are not supposed to go anywhere. You're not supposed to do anything. You're supposed to stay in the county. And I said, no. I have freedom of expression, freedom of movement, and freedom to say what I want, when I want, how I want, and I'll go and do as I damn well please. When I'm off the clock and it's on my time and my dime, that's on me. It has nothing to do with you. And so I would travel up to Salt Lake and Utah County and Wasatch County. I would go down to St. George and see my family down in Hurricane. Okay? They did not like that one bit. They said I went against them. Well, no, because I was on my own and I was doing what I wanted to do on my days off or off the clock. Well, shortly after that, because I disobeyed, they fired me. That's okay, I got them back, trust me. But I stood against that. I stood against the mandates that private businesses were trying to enforce an oligarch authoritarian rule of law that did not exist. And there was no statute or passable anything. There was no legislation, even from a county standpoint, that said I had to stay indoors, stay safe, and not travel. Well, too bad. I'm an American citizen. I believe in our rights and our freedoms that come from God, not government. I'm just one of those guys. So, they fired me. I got them back. But to this day, I'm very proud that I got fired. Because I'm proud that I stood up for myself, for other coworkers, for the principles of the Constitution, and that I was not afraid to sit here and go against the grain. And I'm okay with that. Because that's who we are. We are rebellious in nature as a United States nation. We rebelled against the British. We told them to piss off willing to die on the hill to help my life and improve my life and help improve your lives. So as an RNC committeeman, I value the Constitution, not just the state of Utah's, but the U.S. Constitution. It's who I am. I have it right here on my mobile device. I have it in a pamphlet down here on the ground on my desk. The Constitution is always with me. It doesn't matter where I go. And you'll see that tomorrow as I bring it to the state convention. But in closing, I believe that I am more than capable for doing this job. I am very willing to have conversations where a lot of people will not bring to the table or sit at the table to have those hard conversations. I'm somebody that will work with our federal and state legislation. I'll work with our delegates, our SEC members, and our state party to help unify us, to bring us all to one position as a party per issue. We need somebody that's going to go against the grain, bring people together, and speak for the everyday individual, to speak for the state, to speak for our Republicans that feel like they do not have a voice. And as your National RNC Committeeman, I am more than happy to take on that role and that challenge. Again, I'm Ty Jensen. Again, I didn't want to be a politician. This is just something that happened. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay to stand here in front of you, or sit here in front of you anyway, and tell you what I want to do for you. Because at the end of the day, I work for you. You don't work for me. I work for you. And as a state delegate myself, I want to make sure that we keep Utah red and amazing. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. I won't have a booth, but I will be walking the floor. I will be going up to every single candidate, shaking hands. But not just that, I want to meet as many of you state delegates, and I want to earn your vote for the National RNC Committeeman for the state of Utah. Anyway, I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. God bless. Drive absolutely safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, and have a great night.